Thanks very much.
Thanks for the kind introduction. My name is Anke Ginter, and I'm a quantum physicist working on the Bundesdruckerei, the Federal Printing Office. And as an innovation developer, we try to make quantum technologies accessible and usable, especially in the administration context for public administration, governmental affairs, and the public in general. And we try to bridge between the research on the one hand, the research and the state of the art of the technology, to the user and the application on the other hand. The user with the requirements of the applications. We know that it's very important to have a very interdisciplinary point of view to map the requirements of the application to the properties of a technology. And especially regarding quantum technologies, we think it's really important to have a closer look to the properties, the very special properties of quantum systems. They work different than we know from classical systems, and we quantum think that it's important to have a closer look to the quantum properties of the quantum systems to to get new accesses to your data, to your information, and so on. So you have to look really at the quantum properties of the system. And I'm sorry. For us, it's really important that I'm a little bit confused about the video. I'm sorry for that. I only wanted to say, to being innovative, it's really important that you have to leave the well-known safe path to try out new things, and only then, of course, you find dead ends, but it's really important to do that so you can discover new doors. You can open up new doors, and then you get real new access to your data, to your information, and so on. And that's what we call quantum thinking, and that's what we try out to make accessible. And of course, we don't do that alone. We do that together with partners from the research and the industry. And today we will get a closer look to our EU tender, Quantum Innovation for a Sovereign State, in which we have a closer look to the federal budget allocation. But I have to say, keep in mind, the technologies are quite new, so we have to try out a lot of things, and we don't are at the end in the solution part. That's for sure at the moment. I don't have to say it, but nevertheless I do. And here we try our quantum thinking approach to really find out how to use the quantum properties in the federal budget context. And we started our project with modeling the process, and then find out, or with the aim of create a monitoring tool for a future data-based federal budget allocation. And with this, I really would like to give the word to Niklas from JoS QUANTUM, our partners in this EU tender, who will present the first results. I have to say that we started the project more or less half a year ago, so it's quite a new project, and here you really get insight into the first results of our project.
Thanks, Anke, for the nice, kind words and introduction. First of all, I really need to say that we enjoyed this cooperation a lot. It was, very fruitful meetings, and it's an awesome team at Bundesdruckerei. They really know what they do. A short introduction about myself was already done, thanks. 2 words currently about JoS QUANTUM. So we are a deep tech boutique, advise companies about quantum technology and generative AI. I will say a little bit more words about later on. First of all, I'm going to say a few words about our approach, which we call research as a service. So together with Bundesdruckerei, we are actually running a research collaboration to apply, we coined the name quantum thinking, to different kind of applications. And in this talk, I will present a novel decision-making framework that we developed together, and how like the field of quantum thinking can be approached. So first of all, I mean, I'm not going to into deep here because Sebastian and Uli already talked a little bit about how to approach problems. So thanks for that. First step is groundwork. You need to understand your problem use case, complexity, computational bottlenecks and everything. Read a lot of literature, do a data analysis, visualization, like go to the bottom of the complexity. So for example, is it a computational demanding problem like brute force Monte Carlo simulation, which we encounter in finance, for example, in risk management or pricing? Is there a problem where a faster solution might actually generate a competitive advantage? So which problems are actually interesting? And can machine learning be applied? And what's actually in for quantum machine learning, which is still in very early research modes? And are the current models actually capturing all my relevant features? So we start off building a prototype, having an idea of what quantum system, quantum model we can apply. We go to the third phase, implementing a scalable version in whatever kind of framework. Can be, for example, CRISP, can be Qiskit, can be PennyLane. I don't want to make advertisement for these, but like we are used to actually all of them. And then we like start the scalable implementation of the algorithm. And then the fourth phase usually is test, benchmark, derive requirements, not only on the algorithmic side, but also on the hardware side. So really go down to the hardware and understand where errors occur, what kind of error correction you need, and how a routine in the future might look like. And nothing then less 10x impact is basically not really interesting, because the classical computers and models are really doing quite well. So this is the model I'm going to show you, and I'm trying to explain it in a very high-level way. So we looked at the problem resource allocation, so specifically budget planning, which is connected to the current topic Bundeshaushalt. So specifically, we want to know if we will expect over expect over or underspending in a project or a project portfolio, for example. That's what you need to manage as a project manager. And if you manage many projects, you want to do forecasts of overall budget needs, you want to see the probabilities for time delays, for example, or new budget needs. And this is all like a very important part of the planning and evaluation, continuous evaluation process. So we model the process as pictured on the left side of the picture. So we look at certain amount of discrete time steps, which is on the y-axis actually. And in every time step, we look at the budget, if we overspend or underspend. That's like the really bottom of the modeling process or dynamics. And in every time step, we look if the budget is overspent to the right or underspent to the left in discrete steps, in incremental steps. And to the right, we have positive values, which means overspending. To the left, we have negative values, which is underspending. And I mean, you can also do it with relative numbers, for example, percentages. So for example, we evaluate the budget spendings every quarter over 1 year, so 4 time steps. That each time step we evaluate how much did we overspend, how much did we underspend. And this is basically one data point. So the two paths you see here, like the, well, I don't know what color it has on this screen. The cyan and the magenta, these are like possible spending paths that could occur. And I mean, for some projects, we have many of these different possible spending paths. So, and on the right side, we can observe like different outcomes of the project. So if we take one path and we make a data point somewhere, so the more paths in one bin, the higher the probability for this result is. That's how like we communicate histograms, right? So usually you can use, for example, a random walk, like a classical random walk for example, in stock pricing, you do this. So random walks do a step to the left or to the right with a certain probability, and at the end, all ending paths are summarized, which provides you like a classical distribution with usually or always one peak. So what happens if we do not observe a normal distribution with a certain properties of a distribution? So how can we approach the issue? What can we do with quantum? Well, we can use a quantum walk. And this is like the picture and a very high level difference of a classical random walk on the left side and a quantum random walk on the right side. On the left side, this is basically called a Galton board. It was invented by Francis Galton in 1889. And you can picture it like the white things here are wooden sticks. You throw in a lot of like balls, and on the bottom you have like bins where you collect them. You have basically 50% to go with the ball to falls left or falls right. And if we throw in a lot of balls, and this is done like in huge experiments actually, you observe a normal distribution, and this means the probability falling into a tail, which is purple here, is less probable than to the middle. So this is the dynamic of a random walk. Now let's have a look at the quantum walk on the right side, and I will try to explain it in an easy way because the analogon is a little bit special. But there is a quantum version, a quantum analog of the Galton board, and you can think about like a laser you shine through from the top to semi-reflective mirrors. So for physicists, beam splitters and phase shifters. At each mirror, the light is reflected back or goes through. And that means the so-called probability amplitude changes. So we are switching from a classical regime probabilities to probability amplitudes. In the next 7 minutes, I'm not going to touch what are exactly probability amplitudes here, but you can think about some paths ending at the same position have had different numbers of reflections. And for example, the probability amplitude of the red path and the green path, they interfere and they cancel each other out. So that's a quantum property that's not possible, that's not there in a classical walk. Classical walks, the probabilities sum up. And with these specific parameters, we observe a minimum in the middle and peaks closer to the tails, so completely different. This process is described by a quantum random walk, and we observe very different outcomes. And the cool thing is actually we can simulate this quantum random walk on a classical computer and on my laptop basically. No special hardware necessary. And we have done that exactly, and we created a framework for this. Unfortunately, I was not able to show it interactively, so I'm only showing you screenshots now. So this is how we make use of the specialties of the quantum random walk properties. And you can now basically load data. So any distribution you want to fit to a quantum random walk. Then we use kind of machine learning methods to find the walk parameters and give you like the closest to your target distribution. For example, you can load historic observations of budget spendings. Now we are coming to the federal budget. We can fit the distributions with the very general properties, and now actually with the found parameters we can do forecasts, because this walk makes us able to model like the process underneath. So we can do like decision making basically. So we have a universal tool for predictions, and this is how the current version of the prototype looks like. It's not anymore actually a prototype, it's working, but the UI, the user interface, is currently looking like this. It's a Dash app currently. But what you see here, you can simulate a quantum random walk, and you can manage the fitting. And the fitting is basically on the left side, and the visualization. So we have an upload button. You can upload a distribution. And in this example you're seeing here, we actually uploaded the last 10 years of actual and planned budget spending data from the German federal budget allocation website called Bundeshaushalt.de. There you can actually download and like visualize data back to 2005 for all German ministries and the spendings over time. So you get numbers for actual spendings and you get numbers for planned spendings. Well, and then you can calculate the relative difference. And then you see, then you get a lot of data points like for underspending and overspending in certain times. So after cleaning, more or less 400 data points were left, which are shown here in pink. Exactly, so the target distribution. And the pink bars is the is a histogram which show you the frequency of data points within a certain interval frame. So we needed discrete steps or bins of percentual changes. So this here goes between 81% underspending and 134% overspending, and the height of the bins represent the value of under and overspending in each bin. And this corresponds, well, normalized, interpreted as a probability. And then we can now press AutoFit, which is the blue button. This runs an optimization process on all parameters and minimizes the overall mean squared error to the target distribution. And that actually takes a few seconds. And then we have basically parameters for the initial condition of the walk and conditions that describe the dynamic of the walk. So what you see here is number of steps again, so the number of budget observations. We have a parameter called theta, which is a kind of interpreted as a volatility of a project manager. So the tendency of a manager to extreme under or overspending. So for example, if it's close to 0, he or she has a tendency to extremely overspend, underspend. Close to pi means more or less stick to the budget. We have lambda, we have some parameters here that are so-called phases. So it's basically the asymmetry between under and overspending. So if you remember the two peaks of a quantum random walk, that's basically like the asymmetry. A is a parameter between 0 and 1. It's the probability of, like, in the first step to overspend or underspend. And we have phi, which is a kind of like an initial phase of the walk. But I'm not going into deep now. And now we can run scenarios about potential future budget developments with this data. So for example, increase or decrease the number of time steps. So because, for example, accounting and reporting cycle changes. So we could now double or halve the number of steps and then look at the probability distribution again to get a glance about potential future scenarios. So how probable are 1.5% of overspendings, for example. Just here, have only 1 minute left. So with this thing, we can now like start to work and apply this to real data. And well, the funny thing is we don't even need a quantum computer. We started actually off by modeling this in Qiskit as unitary gates and an algorithm, but then understood how to manage the parameters, and it's actually possible to do this with in like RAM 16 gigabyte on your laptop. So that doesn't mean we don't need a quantum computer in the future, because, well, a lot of data points, you just see 400 here. Usually to make these sense of some models, you need thousands, 100,000s of data points. 400 is really not enough. It just shows it's working. And well, if so, we could evaluate a model based on a quantum amplitude, quantum random walk, and actually afterwards apply an algorithm which is called quantum amplitude estimation, or the error resilient version of this, which we hold a patent for, and then estimate, for example, moments of distributions. Well, and the not so important stuff about our company, well, we are based in Frankfurt. We are now 13 people actually. We have an office here in Berlin, over 30 projects already. We build software for like open source for our usage and also for our partners. We applied for several patents and have a huge like ecosystem to test hardware, to have contact with academia. And yeah, thanks very much for the talk.